You think your hotel room is private, but in a small village in France, one traveler found out the walls were literally watching him. Imagine waking up in a foreign country and realizing that the person standing in the corner of your room isn't a shadow, but a total stranger. Most of us save up money for months just to escape our boring lives and see the world. We dream of beautiful beaches, old buildings, and trying new food that we cannot pronounce. But sometimes, the vacation you planned turns into a fight for your life that you never saw coming. Today, I am sharing 4 true travel horror stories that will make you want to lock your doors and never leave your house again. We are starting with a story from a guy named Julian who booked a cute little apartment in Lyon, France. It looked perfect in the photos, with high ceilings, big windows, and a vintage wardrobe that looked like it belonged in a movie. Julian arrived late at night, dropped his bags, and felt like he had found a total hidden gem for a cheap price. But as he laid in bed that first night, he heard a very faint scratching sound coming from inside the wall. He figured it was just an old building with mice, or maybe the wind blowing through the cracks. The next morning, he noticed something weird about the giant vintage wardrobe in the corner of the bedroom. It was leaning slightly forward, even though he had not touched it at all since he arrived. Julian is a curious guy, so he decided to pull the heavy wooden furniture away from the wall to see what was behind it. His heart dropped when he saw a small wooden door that was not mentioned in the listing at all. The door did not have a handle, just a small hole where a key should go, and it was slightly cracked open. He pushed it open and a smell hit him immediately that he described as old gym clothes mixed with rotting garbage. Behind the door was a narrow stone staircase that led straight down into a dark basement area. Julian grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and slowly walked down the steps because he thought maybe it was just storage. At the bottom of the stairs, he found a small room with a single mattress on the floor and fresh food wrappers everywhere. There was a small pile of photos on a wooden crate, and when he looked closer, his blood turned to ice. The photos were of him, taken from a tiny hole in the wall while he was sleeping the night before. He realized in that moment that someone had been living in the walls and watching him the entire time. He did not even pack his bags. He just grabbed his shoes and ran out the front door as fast as he could. He called the police from a cafe down the street, and when they searched the place, they found the person was still in the house. It turns out the owner of the apartment was not the one renting it out, and a squatter had been running a scam for months. This is why you should always check behind the furniture and look for hidden cameras the second you check into a new place. Now, let's head over to Mexico, where a couple named Sarah and Mark were driving a rental car down a long, empty highway. They were heading to a fancy resort in Tulum and decided to drive at night to beat the heat and the traffic. That was their first mistake, because the roads in that area can get very dark and very lonely once the sun goes down. About 2 hours into their drive, a white truck with flashing red and blue lights pulled up behind them very quickly. Mark pulled over thinking it was the police, and he started reaching for his driver's license and the rental papers. But as the 2 men walked up to the car, Sarah noticed they were not wearing real uniforms, just dark blue t-shirts and tactical vests. One of the men tapped on the window with the barrel of a black handgun and told them to get out of the car. They were in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by thick jungle, and there was not another car in sight for miles. The men demanded their phones, their wallets, and the PIN numbers to all of their credit cards. Mark tried to argue for a second, but the man with the gun pressed it against his forehead and told him to shut up. Sarah was crying and shaking, handing over her jewelry and even her cheap watch just to make them go away. The men took everything, including their suitcases from the trunk, and then told them to start walking into the woods. Mark knew that if they went into the trees, they might never come back out, so he made a split-second choice. He saw another car's headlights in the distance, and he grabbed Sarah's hand and screamed for her to run back toward the road. The men yelled at them, but they didn't fire their guns, likely because they didn't want to draw attention from the approaching car. Sarah and Mark waved their arms like crazy, until a local truck driver stopped and let them jump into the back. They lost thousands of dollars in gear and clothes, but they were lucky to escape with their lives that night. It turns out there are fake police patrols that target tourists on that specific highway because they know travelers carry cash. If you are ever driving in a foreign country, try to stay on the main roads and never drive after the sun sets. Our third story takes us to the deep jungles of Thailand, where a solo hiker named Leo wanted to find a hidden waterfall. Leo was an experienced hiker, so he felt confident going off the main trail to follow a small stream he found. The jungle is a loud place, full of birds and bugs, but suddenly, the entire forest went completely silent. Leo stopped walking because he felt like someone was standing right behind him, breathing on the back of his neck. When he turned around, there was nothing there, just thick green leaves and tall trees. He started walking again, but this time he heard a very distinct whistling sound coming from the trees above him. It was not a bird song. It sounded like a human whistling a very slow and creepy tune that he didn't recognize. He looked up and saw a flash of white fabric moving between the branches about 20 feet off the ground. Leo realized that whatever was following him wasn't an animal, and it was moving way faster than he could on the ground. He started to panic and lost his way, turning left and right until he realized he had no idea where the main trail was. The whistling got louder and seemed to be coming from multiple directions at the same time, like he was being surrounded. He found a small cave and crawled inside, hiding behind a large rock and holding his breath while his heart hammered in his chest. He stayed there for 6 hours, listening to the sound of something heavy walking on the roof of the cave. Eventually, the sun came up and the whistling stopped, allowing him to find his way back to the village by following the river. The locals told him that he was lucky, because many people who go into that part of the jungle never come back out. They believe there are spirits or people living in the deep forest who do not like visitors and will hunt them for sport. Leo never went hiking alone again, and he still has nightmares about that slow, human whistle in the dark. Our final story is about a girl named Emma who was traveling through Japan and staying in cheap hostels to save money. She was in Tokyo when she first noticed a man in a gray hoodie sitting in the lobby of her hostel every single night. He never had a bag, he never talked to anyone, and he just stared at the floor while tapping his fingers on his knee. Emma didn't think much of it until she took a 3-hour train ride to the city of Kyoto 2 days later. When she checked in to her new hostel in Kyoto, she saw the same man in the gray hoodie sitting in the corner of the room. She felt a chill run down her spine, wondering how he could have known exactly where she was going next. She decided to test it by booking a last-minute bus to a tiny town in the mountains that was not on any tourist map. When she arrived at the mountain village and walked into the only guest house available, there he was again. He was standing by the check-in desk, holding a small piece of paper that had her full name written on it in red ink. Emma turned around and ran to the local police station, screaming for help because she knew she was being hunted. The police detained the man and found out he had placed a small GPS tracker inside the lining of her backpack. He had been following her for over a week, waiting for her to go somewhere quiet where no one would hear her scream. It turns out he was a stalker who had found her social media and tracked her flight all the way from her home country. Travel is amazing, but these stories show us that the world can be a very dangerous place if you aren't careful. Always trust your gut feeling, and if something feels wrong, get out of there as fast as you can. If you want to see more scary stories that will keep you up at night, click the video on the screen right now.